Well, it's been about a month and a half since I've made a video. Sorry about that, but nevertheless, here I am making another one. Since my month and a half absence, I've met Carl Weezer. I set up my computer in a new room, so if the audio sounds a little echoey, that's why. And I also noticed my Let's Talk About video on the GameCube Mario Parties has gotten quite a bit of recognition. So I've decided to start making a little more Mario Party based content, but don't worry, this isn't going to be solely a Mario Party channel because there's a lot more content I would like to make on my channel aside from Mario Party. But I figured making a little more content here and there wouldn't hurt, and that's what this very video is about. So without further ado, here is the worst part of every GameCube Mario Party. For this video, I'll be going over every single GameCube Mario Party. I originally wanted to go over all of them, but there was a lot more to get into with these games than I realized, so for now I'll be going over just the GameCube Mario Parties. Now remember, this is just my take on the worst part of these games, and just because I say negative things about these games does not mean I don't like them. Hell, all 4 of these games are better than most Mario Parties before and after, and they're still better than any Mario Party that's come out in the last decade. If you think there are parts that are worse, that's perfectly fine, leave it in the comments or some stupid algorithm feeding sentence like that. So starting with the first entry on the square system, what's the worst part in Mario Party 4? The boards. Now don't get me wrong, I love this game and I know it was the first entry on a new system, but man, these boards are not visually pleasing. It looks like a conveyor belt on top of what's supposed to be the actual map. My complaint for the board isn't just because of its aesthetic look either. I know that they were just working things out with the GameCube, so that's understandable. There just isn't enough on the board that isn't tiny or big mushrooms, and my goodness, there are plenty of them throughout this game. Like, I wouldn't have minded a few more battle spaces or even an extra chance time space here and there. I know it's called something different in 4, but I'm gonna call it that regardless. You all know what I'm talking about. The amount of tiny and big mushrooms on these boards, while I do understand they're mainly meant to help you get around parts of the board easier, you can put them where they're needed and leave the extra spaces for other things instead of just tiny or big mushroom spaces. More often than not, I find myself landing on these spaces too often and end up having to save one item space just so I can get rid of one of these mushrooms because I already landed on another space the very next turn for the same item. I wouldn't say there's a bad board in this game, but I definitely have to point out that Boo's Haunted Bash is difficult to navigate because it's very easy to avoid quite a bit of the board due to the red boo mechanic. The worst minigame, while I can't think of any minigames I didn't like per se, my least favorite has to be Hop or Pop. And not because of the minigame itself, but because of how unfair it can be if you're playing with the wrong people being me because I know way too much about these games enough as it is. I don't know these games as much as I know other things like Undertale, Teenage Robot, or Super Mario 64, but I know them too well to have any fair chance of playing with me, and I know the game well enough to know even though aesthetically Mario Party 4's boards aren't the best, this game is certainly better than any Mario Party that's come out in the last decade, so the few things I don't like about Mario Party 4, it more than makes up for in other parts of the game. Moving along to what many consider to be the best Mario Party 5. I can immediately tell you my personal beef with this game. No item shops. Every item you get is completely up to chance, negating any strategy you have whatsoever when it comes to items in this game. Another thing I don't like is that not only does this Mario Party continue the trend of having a board where you can be completely cut off from the rest of the map, but this one has 2 of them. The worst minigame? I can't really think of any I've played. Mario Party 5 really stepped it up in terms of minigames, and it shows because I don't have a minigame I can think of that I didn't like or care for. However, if you land on a duel space, you better hope you're on the right side of the duel because that duel heavily favors one side. I'll also add one more negative part of this game by saying you can use harmful items on yourself. Whose wise idea was it to not specifically or at least restrict items that would harm you if you used it on yourself? You can make yourself lose something because you didn't understand how the orb works. That has to be one of the stupidest Sorry about that, it's been a while since I've gone off like that in one of these videos. Normally Jen would be here to comfort me, but I have a new PC set up, which means I have to figure out how to get her voice working again, so if you don't see her in the next few videos, that's why. So yeah, I think I've made my point on Mario Party 5. While it does have some flaws, I can see why people love it so much and see why it's often regarded as one of, if not the best Mario Party games. My personal pick, though, belongs to the next game. Moving on to the Mario Party that you can't sleep through because of the game's main gimmick, the worst part to me in Mario Party 6 has to be the fact that there's no hidden blocks. That was the one X factor I loved seeing in every Mario Party that had it, and the fact that it's not in this one prevents it from being the perfect Mario Party in my opinion. That won't stop me from saying it's the closest thing to a perfect Mario Party we're going to get, though. I have no complaints with any of the boards, they're all wonderful in their own right. Yes, even Clockwork Castle, I enjoyed it, bite me. There's not even a mini-game that was my least favorite, I enjoyed all of them. If I had to pick one, though, it would have to be the one where Bowser tells you your fortune, because it's just such a dumb minigame, but that's only for single-player mode, I do believe, so most people don't even come across it when they play this game. Call it bias, but aside from the hidden blocks, I don't really see anything else that's wrong with this game. It's got the biggest selection of characters up to this point, with Toadette making her first appearance as a playable character, something this game's got going for it that modern Mario parties don't. The minigames are all memorable in their own right, the boards are all diverse and unique, and at this rate, I'm going to keep talking about this game until you stop watching this video, so I'll just go ahead and move on. Mario Party 7... they couldn't have ended the GameCube Mario parties on a really good note, but they did end it on a good note at that, just not the best. Don't get me wrong though, Mario Party 7 is a good game, but man, they could have done so much better. Since making my GameCube Mario Party video, I have gone back to 7 a few times. The boards are pretty good, the minigames are plentiful with the most up to that point. I do have to say though, the mic minigame on the boards suck. And that is not the only minigame revolved space that sucks too. The duel space has to be the worst duel space up to this point. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because usually before you enter the duel, you end up figuring out what you're going to be playing over, and some even gave you the option to pick what you can put up for grabs in that duel. This Mario Party, however, no. When you land on a duel space, you do the dueling first and then figure out what you get afterwards, and even then, there is a chance you'll end up dueling for nothing, because yes, they also added in the factor that you can duel for absolutely nothing. I honestly couldn't tell you why. It's a really stupid choice for a duel space to be like that, and I don't want to keep going on because I will rant about this for a while, and I don't want to have another technical difficulty, and this isn't worthy enough to debut a new part of my videos I want to implement in the future. So for now, I'll just sum it up by saying while it does have more flaws than any other GameCube Mario Party, it's still better than most Mario Party games. Now, again, I love these games. They're some of my favorite games on the GameCube, they're my favorite Mario Party games, and I will cherish these games with all of my heart. But they're not perfect. Even my favorite 6 is not perfect because, again, no hidden blocks, but all of these little flaws shouldn't make you think they drag the games down because they don't. They're some of, if not the best Mario Party games you can find out there, and the fact that Nintendo hasn't released them on later consoles shows that. These are the best Mario Party games, and Nintendo knows that because they don't want to make their modern games look bad. That's why Nintendo hasn't put anything from the GameCube onto the Switch or anything like that, because that's what it will do. People will buy Switch Online and play GameCube games instead of buying newer Switch games, and they know that. But I've shitted on Nintendo enough in all my Nintendo videos, so I'll just leave it at that, and while these games do have some flaws to them, from aesthetic pleasing, to random items, to no hidden blocks, to getting not a damn thing over a duel, they're still wonderful games I wouldn't hesitate to go back to any day of the week. And with that said and done, I do believe this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, thanks to Jen for helping me make this video, and as always, take care, and have a good one.